Are you wise or foolish? Have you ever caught yourself wondering what makes someone truly wise or foolish? It's not about how smart you are, how much education you've had, or how many books you've read. True wisdom is about how you live, how you think, and how you treat others. According to the ancient Stoics, foolishness isn't just a lack of intelligence. It's a failure to live in alignment with reason and virtue. Today, we're diving into a topic that might make you stop and think: 6 key signs of a stupid woman, according to Stoic wisdom. Now, before you get the wrong idea, let me clarify something. This isn't about labeling or judging. Stoicism isn't about pointing fingers. It's a philosophy that encourages self-reflection, growth, and personal accountability. When we look at these 6 signs, we're not just talking about someone else out there who might fit these descriptions. Instead, I want to invite you to use this as a mirror to reflect on your own actions, your own thoughts, and your own life. After all, the Stoics believed that wisdom is a journey, not a destination. And here's the thing: no one is perfect. Not you, not me. The goal here isn't perfection, it's progress. Now, why Stoicism? Well, Stoicism is one of the most practical and timeless philosophies you'll ever encounter. It's not about abstract ideas or unreachable ideals. It's about mastering your mindset, focusing on what you can control, and living a life rooted in virtue. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus spent their lives teaching how to navigate the chaos of the world with calmness, clarity, and strength. What's fascinating is that their lessons are just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. So what does Stoicism say about the traits of foolishness? How can we identify and overcome the habits and mindsets that hold us back from living a fulfilling, meaningful life? And more importantly, how can we take these ancient lessons and apply them to our modern lives? If you're curious, keep watching, because we're about to break down the 6 signs of a stupid woman, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of learning and growth. And don't worry, I'm not here to single anyone out. Instead, I want to challenge you to reflect, question, and maybe even laugh a little along the way. So let's get started with the first sign. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Would you like to make any stylistic edits or adjustments? Sign number 1, prioritizing appearance over character. Now, I want you to imagine this scenario. You meet someone who always seems to have it all together on the outside. Perfect makeup, stylish clothes, a flawless Instagram feed. At first glance, they might seem confident, successful, and maybe even inspiring. But here's the catch. When you look a little closer, you notice there's not much depth beneath the surface. Their energy is spent entirely on how they look, not on who they are. According to the Stoics, this obsession with appearance is a clear sign of foolishness. Why? Because they believed that true value lies within your virtues, your character, and your soul. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said it best: "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, it's who you are on the inside that truly defines you, not how you look on the outside. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with caring about your appearance. Taking pride in how you present yourself can show self-respect and confidence. But when you prioritize looks above all else, you're neglecting the things that really matter. Think about it. Beauty fades, youth fades. The way you look today won't last forever. But the person you are, your kindness, your wisdom, your resilience, those things endure. Those things grow. The Stoics would argue that focusing too much on physical beauty is not only shallow, but also distracting. It takes your attention away from more important pursuits, like developing your mind, cultivating meaningful relationships, and living a virtuous life. When you place all your worth in something as temporary as appearance, you set yourself up for insecurity. Because what happens when the beauty you've relied on starts to fade? What happens when someone else comes along who looks better? You're left feeling empty because you've tied your value to something that was never meant to define you in the first place. How do you shift away from this mindset? The Stoics would say to focus on inner beauty instead. Take time to reflect on your values. Are you living with integrity? Are you treating others with kindness and respect? Are you growing into the best version of yourself? Because at the end of the day, no amount of makeup, designer clothes, or perfectly curated social media posts will matter if you haven't worked on who you are at your core. Let me leave you with this. The next time you catch yourself comparing your looks to someone else's or obsessing over how you're perceived, pause and ask yourself, what kind of person am I becoming? That's the question the Stoics would want you to answer, because your character will always matter far more than your appearance. Sign number 2, ignoring self-responsibility. This one might hit a little close to home for some of us, because, let's face it, taking responsibility for our actions isn't always easy. But according to the Stoics, it's absolutely essential if you want to live a wise and meaningful life. Have you ever met someone who seems to have a reason for everything that's wrong in their life? And that reason is never them. Maybe they blame their job, their parents, their partner, or even bad luck. Nothing is ever their fault. Now, while it's true that life can throw us some pretty unfair circumstances, the Stoics believed that focusing too much on external factors is a sign of foolishness. Why? Because it takes away your power. Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, taught this powerful lesson. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Think about that for a moment. The Stoics believed that while you can't control everything that happens to you, you always have control over your mindset, your actions, and your choices. Blaming others or external circumstances doesn't just make you look immature, it actually keeps you stuck. When you refuse to take responsibility, you give away your ability to change, grow, and improve. Let's break it down. Say you're struggling in your career. Sure, maybe your boss is difficult, the job market is tough, or the economy isn't in your favor. But what can you control? Are you actively working to improve your skills? Are you showing up every day with a positive attitude and a strong work ethic? Or are you spending all your time complaining and waiting for someone else to fix it for you? The Stoics would remind you that progress starts with personal accountability. The moment you take responsibility for your life, even the hard parts, you take back your power. And here's the thing, blaming others might feel good in the moment. It might feel like you're off the hook, like you're justified in your frustration. But in the long run, it's a trap. It keeps you from growing into the person you're meant to be. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." In other words, you're capable of far more than you think, but only if you're willing to take responsibility for your life. How can you apply this Stoic principle in your own life? Start by asking yourself some tough questions. Am I blaming others for my problems? What can I do differently to improve my situation? Am I willing to take ownership of my actions, even when it's uncomfortable? The Stoics believed that responsibility isn't just about fixing what's wrong. It's about empowering yourself to create a better future. So the next time you're tempted to point fingers or make excuses, stop and remind yourself, this is my life. How I respond is up to me. Taking responsibility might not always be easy, but it's one of the most powerful steps you can take toward wisdom and growth. Sign number 3, overvaluing others' opinions. Let's move on to the third sign of foolishness, according to Stoic wisdom: overvaluing others' opinions. This one hits hard in today's world, doesn't it? Social media has made it so easy to fall into the trap of caring too much about what other people think. How many likes did your post get? Who's watching your stories? What will people say about the choices you've made? These questions creep into our minds, sometimes without us even realizing it. But here's the truth. Living for the approval of others is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. The Stoics were firm about this. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and a Stoic giant, said it best: "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." Think about that for a second. You love yourself more than anyone else, right? You're with yourself 24/7 through every success and every failure. Yet somehow, the opinions of people who don't live your life, who might not even know you well, carry so much weight. Why is that? The Stoics believed that constantly seeking validation from others is a sign of foolishness because it pulls you away from your own path. When you live for other people's opinions, you hand over control of your happiness, your decisions, and your self-worth. Instead of asking yourself, "What do I want? What aligns with my values?" you start asking, "What will they think? What will make me look good?" The problem with that mindset is that it's impossible to please everyone. No matter what you do, someone will always criticize you. The Stoics taught that wisdom comes from living in alignment with your own values, not someone else's expectations. They encouraged us to focus on what we can control. And guess what? You can't control what other people think of you. You can only control how you think about yourself. Epictetus put it simply: if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own. Does this mean you should ignore everyone's opinions entirely? Not at all. The Stoics would say to listen to feedback with an open mind, but don't let it define you. There's a big difference between constructive feedback that helps you grow and toxic validation that keeps you trapped. Here's a practical takeaway. The next time you're worrying about what others think, pause and ask yourself these questions. Why do their opinions matter to me? Am I living in alignment with my own values? If no one else were watching, would I still make the same decision? By shifting your focus from external validation to internal integrity, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of people-pleasing. Remember, wisdom isn't about being liked by everyone. It's about staying true to who you are. The Stoics would remind you that your worth isn't up for debate. It's something you define for yourself. Sign number 4: emotional instability and overreaction. Let's move on to the fourth sign of foolishness. And this one is a biggie: emotional instability and overreaction. Imagine this. You're having a conversation with someone, and suddenly a small disagreement turns into a full-blown argument. Voices are raised, tempers flare, and before you know it, things spiral completely out of control. Or maybe you've seen someone let a minor inconvenience, like being stuck in traffic, ruin their entire day. Sound familiar? According to Stoic wisdom, allowing your emotions to control you is a sign of foolishness. The Stoics believed that emotions are natural, but overreacting to them or letting them dictate your actions is a failure to live rationally. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." In other words, much of our suffering comes not from the situation itself, but from how we choose to react to it. Now, don't get me wrong. Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. The Stoics understood that emotions are a natural part of being human, but they also believed that wisdom lies in how you respond to those emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively, they taught us to pause, reflect, and choose a response that aligns with reason and virtue. Why does emotional instability matter so much? Because it clouds your judgment. When you let anger, fear, or frustration take over, you're more likely to make decisions you'll regret. You might say things you don't mean, hurt people you care about, or escalate situations unnecessarily. Worse, emotional overreaction can create a ripple effect, damaging your relationships and your reputation. Epictetus put it beautifully. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This is one of the core teachings of Stoicism. You can't control everything that happens in life, but you can control your response. And when you master your response, you master your life. How can you practice emotional stability? Here are a few Stoic-inspired strategies. 1. Pause before reacting. When you feel your emotions bubbling up, take a deep breath and pause. Give yourself a moment to process before responding. 2. Reframe the situation. Ask yourself, is this really worth getting upset over? Most of the time, the answer is no. 3. Focus on what you can control. If the situation is out of your hands, don't waste energy on it. Instead, shift your focus to what you can influence, your mindset, your actions, and your perspective. Let's be honest, we all lose our cool sometimes. It's human, but the key is to catch yourself, reflect, and try to do better next time. Remember, calmness is a superpower. When you stay grounded in the face of chaos, you not only protect your peace, but also inspire others to do the same. So the next time you're tempted to overreact, think of the Stoics. Ask yourself, am I letting my emotions control me, or am I in control of my emotions? Because wisdom is not about never feeling. It's about choosing how to act, even when emotions run high. Sign number 5, materialism and greed. Let's move on to the 5th sign of foolishness, materialism and greed. Now picture this, someone who's obsessed with acquiring more money, more possessions, more status symbols. They measure their success not by the quality of their character or the happiness in their life, but by the number of zeros in their bank account or the designer labels in their closet. Sound familiar? The Stoics had a lot to say about this, and spoiler alert, it's not flattering. The Stoics believed that an obsession with material wealth is a sure sign of foolishness. Why? Because material things are temporary, external, and ultimately beyond our control. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In other words, the more you chase material things, the more you'll find yourself enslaved to them. You'll always be wanting more, never satisfied, always looking for the next thing to fill that emptiness inside. Think about it. How many people have you seen who seem to have it all on the surface? Money, cars, a big house, but are completely miserable. That's because materialism is a trap. It distracts you from what truly matters: your relationships, your purpose, your inner peace. The Stoics taught that true wealth isn't about what you own. It's about being content with what you already have. But here's the thing. Materialism isn't just about greed for money or possessions. It's also about craving external validation. Maybe you're not obsessed with owning luxury items, but you find yourself chasing status or recognition. You think, if I just get that promotion, if I just earn that degree, if I just buy that one thing, then I'll finally feel fulfilled. The Stoics would tell you that this mindset is a dead end. True fulfillment comes from within, not from anything external. How do you break free from materialism and greed? The Stoics had a practice called voluntary discomfort. They would intentionally go without luxuries, sometimes even food, warmth, or shelter, to remind themselves that they didn't need those things to survive or thrive. It was a way to practice gratitude and focus on what really matters. While you don't have to go to those extremes, you can adopt a similar mindset. Start by asking yourself, what am I grateful for right now? Do I really need this thing, or am I trying to fill an emotional void? Am I living according to my values, or am I chasing things that won't bring lasting happiness? The Stoics believed that simplicity is freedom. When you stop tying your happiness to material things, you free yourself from the endless cycle of wanting, chasing, and never feeling satisfied. And the best part? You start focusing on what truly matters, your growth, your relationships, and your legacy. Let's explore some signs of foolishness according to Stoic wisdom. In a world that often pushes us toward conformity and superficial values, the ancient teachings of Stoicism provide a timeless guide to living wisely, authentically, and purposefully. The first sign is something many of us grapple with daily: overvaluing the opinions of others. In today's hyper-connected world, where social media magnifies every aspect of our lives, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking external validation. How often do we find ourselves asking questions like, how many likes did my post get? Who viewed my stories? What will people say about the choices I've made? These questions sneak into our minds, sometimes without us even noticing. We become consumed by the opinions of people who may not even know us well. The truth is, living for the approval of others is one of the quickest ways to lose yourself. The Stoics were adamant about the dangers of this mindset. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and one of the great Stoic philosophers, captured it perfectly. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Think about that for a moment. You are with yourself through every success, failure, joy, and sorrow. You know your thoughts, dreams, and aspirations better than anyone else. Yet somehow, the opinions of people who don't share your life's journey can carry disproportionate weight. Why is that? The Stoics believed that constantly seeking validation from others pulls you away from your authentic path. When your decisions hinge on what others might think, you hand over control of your happiness, self-worth, and life choices. Instead of asking yourself what you genuinely want or what aligns with your core values, you begin to ask what will make you look good or what will gain approval from others. This mindset is a losing game because no matter how hard you try, someone will always criticize or disapprove of your choices. The wisdom of the Stoics is clear. Live in alignment with your own values, not someone else's expectations. Focus on what you can control, which includes your thoughts and actions, but never the opinions of others. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, put it simply: if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. If you need a witness, be your own. This doesn't mean dismissing all opinions. There's wisdom in listening to constructive feedback. However, it's essential to distinguish between helpful insights and toxic validation that traps you in a cycle of people-pleasing. The next time you find yourself worrying about what others think, pause and reflect. Ask yourself why their opinions matter to you. Are you living in alignment with your own values, or are you merely trying to win their approval? If no one else were watching, would you still make the same decision? Shifting from external validation to internal integrity frees you from the exhausting pursuit of being liked by everyone. Wisdom isn't about popularity, it's about staying true to who you are and defining your worth on your terms. Another sign of foolishness the Stoics warned against is emotional instability and overreaction. Picture this: you're having a casual conversation and a minor disagreement escalates into a heated argument. Voices are raised, tempers flare, and things spiral out of control. Or perhaps you've seen someone let a minor inconvenience, like being stuck in traffic, ruin their entire day. This behavior may seem all too familiar, but according to Stoic wisdom, allowing your emotions to control you is a clear sign of irrationality. The Stoics acknowledged that emotions are a natural part of being human, but they emphasized that overreacting or letting emotions dictate your actions is a failure to live rationally. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wisely noted, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." Much of our suffering doesn't come from external events, but from how we choose to react to them. Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about learning how to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. When emotions arise, the Stoics taught us to pause, reflect, and choose a response aligned with reason and virtue. Why does this matter so much? Because emotional instability clouds your judgment. When you let anger, fear, or frustration take control, you're more likely to make decisions you'll regret. You might hurt people you care about, say things you don't mean, or escalate situations unnecessarily. Epictetus captured this principle beautifully. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Life will always throw challenges your way, but your response is within your control. Mastering your reaction allows you to master your life. To practice emotional stability, start by pausing before reacting. When you feel emotions bubbling up, take a deep breath and give yourself a moment to process before responding. Reframe the situation by asking yourself whether it's really worth getting upset over. Most of the time, it isn't. Focus on what you can control: your mindset, your actions, and your perspective, rather than wasting energy on things beyond your control. It's human to lose your cool sometimes. The key is to catch yourself, reflect, and strive to do better next time. Calmness is a superpower. When you remain composed in the face of chaos, you not only protect your peace, but also inspire others to do the same. Another sign of foolishness the Stoics highlighted is materialism and greed. Picture someone obsessed with acquiring more money, more possessions, more status symbols. Their success is measured not by their character or happiness, but by the number of zeros in their bank account or the designer labels in their closet. The Stoics had strong opinions about this mindset, and they weren't complimentary. The pursuit of material wealth is foolish because it is fleeting and beyond our control. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." The more you chase material things, the more enslaved you become to them. You're constantly seeking the next thing, never satisfied, and always trying to fill an emptiness that material possessions can't fill. Consider how many people seem to have it all on the surface: money, luxury cars, big houses, but are deeply unhappy. Materialism distracts you from what truly matters: meaningful relationships, purpose, and inner peace. True wealth, according to the Stoics, isn't about what you own, but about being content with what you already have. Materialism isn't limited to a craving for money or possessions. It can also manifest as a constant desire for status or recognition. Perhaps you're not obsessed with owning luxury items, but you chase promotions, accolades, or external validation, thinking that these will bring fulfillment. The Stoics would tell you that this mindset is a dead end. True fulfillment comes from within, not from anything external. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, intentionally going without luxuries to remind themselves that they didn't need these things to survive or thrive. While you don't have to go to such extremes, adopting a similar mindset can help. Ask yourself what you're grateful for right now. Question whether you really need that new possession or if you're trying to fill an emotional void. Reflect on whether you're living according to your values or chasing things that won't bring lasting happiness. Simplicity is freedom. When you stop tying your happiness to material things, you break free from the endless cycle of wanting, chasing, and never feeling satisfied. You can then focus on what truly matters: your growth, your relationships, and your legacy. Stoic wisdom teaches us that a wise life isn't defined by external approval, impulsive emotions, or material possessions. It's shaped by integrity, emotional balance, and contentment. These principles may be ancient, but they remain as relevant as ever in guiding us toward a meaningful and fulfilling life.